This video is part two of my discussion with David Lorenzo Glover, the controversial counselor, regarding his latest book, No Friday Foolishness. In case you missed part one, the link is in the description box below. Please like this video, please share it, and please subscribe to my channel, and enjoy part two.
It's like what's his name? Masterpiece selling him out his trunk.
Okay, okay. All right. Um, do you have time for a few more questions?
uh,
A few
yeah, I got
discussion
time.
points?
Yeah, I got
Okay,
time.
okay. So I think this is piggybacking off of a couple of things you and Herb talked about, and I thought that these were very important discussions that you guys raised. One of them was the let's see, one of them was the issues with or the complications associated with dating single mothers.
Hmm.
I thought that one was huge. Did you and Herb kind of come up with that one together, or did you say, "Hey, Herb, I'm going to talk about this," or he said, "David, you should talk about that"?
Well, we have been talking about we had did the discussion on church, had did like white supremacy. So I said, it's November, it's getting towards and my biggest audience is women, and I said it's getting holiday season, so it's time to kind of talk some relationship talks. So we
Yeah,
kind of went been going down that avenue, and actually, was it yesterday we just did the one, and I guess the main focal point was, why do women kind of refuse to date single guys with children? But the expectation is, women will be quick to say they're not going to date a man with, children or younger children, but the expectation is that a guy should be okay with it. So we kind of, talked about those things and how it works and the blended families and, the different rules and the finances and all the stuff that comes to it that a lot of people may not discuss. They just jump into it, and then they be
hmm,
catching hell and back by the time
yeah,
either they stay with it or leave it. But they like, wow, they're in for it.
yeah. It's interesting how I'll just say when the shoe's on the other foot, how men approach things versus how women approach things. So it's kind of, as a man, you kind of expect, okay, well, she's got children, she's got children. But for a man to have children, it's kind of perceived differently by women. So it's very interesting.
Yeah.
Um, an, excuse me. Another one that stood out to me was the whole 50-50. I call it the 50-50 paradox.
Hmm.
Um, that one's been getting a lot of traction in the YouTube space in general. But that one is very fascinating as well, because I think for me that I don't know. I think our generation, the Gen Xers, no one kind of prepared us for this whole thing. So the there's been a push. There was a push, I guess, back in the 70s and 80s to make women equal and
Hmm.
to get women educated. And so on from a logic standpoint, you say, okay, well, I have a degree, she has a degree, we both have incomes, we both have jobs, so we should kind of carry things together. And yet, from a emotional standpoint, maybe a spiritual standpoint, most of the women still want a man to provide for them. So it's a real uh if no one explains that to you, it could really be a real curveball. That's something it's taken me a while to kind of wrap my head around and kind of figure out and come to grips with. It's one of those oxymorons.
Yeah, that one, even when we did it, when we did the Facebook book live discussion, that was one of them heated shows that a couple women that called in, and they really wasn't feeling that 50-50 talk because they felt like sort of like you said, men would take care of them, and it was like it would be almost an insult for a guy to want to say, okay, let's split stuff down half. Then they didn't really like the terminology 50-50 because they're like, well, that means you're only giving me 50. But I'm like, it doesn't, you can't look at it like that. It's pretty much just saying we gonna, go half on everything. And we know that it never really works out like that. But like I always say, it's about interdependence, like building off of each other's strengths and weaknesses. And some things a man may be able to do better. Some things a women may be able to do better, and you just have to work together on that. But when you had a mindset that well, I'm doing this, or you make more than this, so you should pay all this and that, I think that's where all the chaos comes in.
Yeah, yeah. And I don't think that, from household to household, I don't think there's been a nice uniform way of raising boys and girls in terms of, at least in our community, of what we should do and what to expect. And what I mean by that is I can remember, my mom and one of my aunts talking about going Dutch,
Mm-hmm.
and them being okay with going Dutch. And I had my first serious girlfriend as an adult. One of the things she told me was going Dutch is not sexy. And she just kind of just hammered, and I was in graduate school. I didn't have any money, but no, that was wrong. That was bad. That was sacrilegious.
Mm.
And I have another one of my best friend's mothers said one time that a woman wants the option of working.
Mm.
So she wants the option of staying home and the option of going to work. So, and I just think this is something like you and Herb are doing. This is something that needs to be out there, and it needs to be discussed. And it just people need to be aware that these types of dynamics are going on.
Yeah, I think when people, when they get a certain age and they go with their physical attraction, and then they think everything's supposed to fall in place. Then once that honeymoon stage is over and it's bills to be paid, or you decide to move in together, a plan is never developed. And we're all a work in progress. No one's, as far as I know, a relationship expert and all that stuff. I would never claim to be that, but I just think these subjects are interesting, and I like to spark fire with them because I know that we can learn from each other by having them. And some people bring good experiences from their relationships, or maybe from their parents, on how things was handled. And like I mentioned on the show, I said, well, my mother and father call themselves splitting stuff halfway. Well, he made more money, so when they paid everything, and then whatever was left, she took half, he took half, but her half went towards me and my three siblings, and his half went to clothes, hats, drugs, partying, which it really wasn't 50-50. So
Mm-hmm.
she got the short end of the stick. So it just, it depends on how you work it out in that communication piece. But when you feel like when you're not getting, it's not a good balance, I think that's where a lot of, the turmoil comes in, and people become unhappy, or they kind of, spiteful, or, those irrational thoughts kick in, like,
Yeah.
I'm not getting I'm getting the short end of the stick.
Yeah. Well, two things, and some of the YouTube content creators have talked about whether or not women truly want to be out there working and grinding, and whether or not that's their natural role. But one of the questions that's being asked is, do they really want to be out there doing what men do? Do they really want to be doing what men do? Do they really want to be out there working and grinding and doing those things, or ultimately do they want to be provided for? And I think this last point I'm going to take us out on is
Uh-huh.
you and her were talking about cooking, and I think it ultimately segued into money and being wise with your money. But that discussion really resonated with me because number one, I think that if you're gonna stay home with the children, which a lot of women want the option of doing, I think you do need to know how to cook.
Mm-hmm.
Because you have babies, you need to feed them. And if you have a husband who's working all day, covering everything, you need to feed him.
Mm-hmm.
And then I realized, since I've been out on my own as an adult, very few women have offered to cook me something. And it's not an issue of whether or not I can cook, because I can, and I think cooking is fun. But we've lost some things. I'm just gonna come out and say it. We've lost some things, and that one thing, little things like that, would earn a lot of points, I think, for a lot of men.
Oh yeah, big time. That would
So,
be big time.
yeah, in terms of a man saying, okay, well, she took the time to do this for me. She's got the skill. I think that would give a lot of men pause in terms of settling down and being a little more willing to turn in their player cards. That's just my opinion.
And I just want to say this last point that I know maybe like a month and a half ago, I had made a post and I pretty much said that if, if I'm with someone, I have no desire to go out and eat more than twice a month. If that, I said I prefer a cooked meal. Oh, so the women, they went in on that. They went in like, oh, what's wrong with your hands and all that stuff. And I'm like, I feel like you get a better bang for the buck when you prepare the meal. You get, it could be seconds, thirds, and it tastes better. I said the quality of some of these restaurants isn't as good as they used to be. So therefore, I prefer a home cooked meal. So that just went into like one of those 200 comment posts um, because of that. And they felt like, well, wait a minute, if I'm working and taking care of the kids, taking them to different events, why should I have to cook all this time? Sometimes I want to go out. And so that it kind of, it kind of went there. And then we were talking about, I said tradition, and that was big because they ran with that word tradition. They was like, well, tradition means that we, like you said, stay home and then we can cook and clean, and that means you're going to take care of everything. But I told them that wasn't my tradition to cook. I said my mother, when she was with my father, she cooked, and my grandmother always cooked for my grandfather. That's what I know and seen. So I may have expectations that I want a woman that cooks. I don't want to be out nowhere 3, 4 times a week at a restaurant or doing takeout. I prefer a home cooked meal. And they're like, well, I guess you'll be single, and, stuff like that for the rest
Yeah,
of your life.
yeah. There's usually a clap back as opposed to stopping and thinking about what's being said. But I think the other piece to that is that I think many of them don't know how to prepare a meal for a guy, because I think that going from the baby boomers to Generation X, maybe that wasn't considered important. Go and get your degree, get your own. I think that was considered important, not being the best possible partner for a man. So,
That's a good
just
point.
my thought, my speculation. Okay. And anybody watching this, please leave comments in the comment section below. Let us know what you think. Um, Well, David, that's all I've got. Unless you have any parting words, we can conclude here.
One thing I want to give another plug for people to check out the No Friday Foolishness. Like I said, a good book. It's getting cold outside. It's time that people pick up books, read. It really, as far as I'm concerned, really don't be anything on TV. I mean, I'm a sports guy, but I think it's time as you hibernate, time for people to start reflecting and thinking about certain issues to try to move forward. And I think this would be an ideal book for the during this time. So check me out on social media, David Lorenzo Glover, inbox me, and like I said, I'll get a book out to you. I wish everybody a good holiday and be safe and mainly be safe because there's a lot going out here in this world today. It's a lot. So be safe, be good, and just try to be the best you can going into 2020. That's all I have.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, it's definitely starting to feel like Western New York out here, man. It's cold. The wind was blowing, and it's definitely starting to feel like Western New York down
Yes.
here in the DMV.
Yeah, I left work today. It was 37. I said, "Oh yeah, it's the hawk out here. It's that time to start pulling out the skull caps."
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, everyone, thank you for watching. Please follow David. Please check out David. He's got a lot of cool things going on. Him and Herb, Lewis, and hopefully David will come back to my channel again at some point, and I'll be keeping my eye on what he's doing. We're Facebook friends. So with that, thank you for watching, everyone. Always remember that your attitude determines your altitude. Take care, and I'll talk to you the next time. Bye bye.
All right, see ya.